Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad.
Hey guys, I'm back being live! Did you all miss me? Yes, welcome back to a live episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, where I am back on Twitch. I am doing this on a Saturday, and the chat wall is as lively as ever. And don't worry, folks, I don't have anything major planned on any upcoming Saturdays, so far from what I see, it looks like we are back to normal. We are back to putting things onto a live format for AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Now, before I begin though, I just want to put out a little bit of a message, because I just want to say right now, in Canada, or especially in Eastern Canada, unfortunately, we have entered upon the elusive second wave of the coronavirus. So we are pretty much at the point where our numbers are very much increasing. Like, we were doing so well during the summer where we kept our numbers low, like even to the point that in the entirety of Canada, we were getting less than 100 new cases per day. But now it has significantly grown to a very concerning amount where a possible second lockdown might not be impossible. So this is just to say that I do implore you that no matter where you are, because I know Canada is not the only one who's currently experiencing a second wave, but it begs on repeating that you must wear a mask, that you must practice social distancing, and that you must wash your hands frequently. I know that many of you are probably sick and tired of always hearing that, and like even for me, I'm a little bit sick and tired of repeating that all the time, but it's the best thing we have to do. We have to keep on repeating this and keep on reminding people to practice these safety guidelines in order to go and minimize the damage of the pandemic until we do have an actual effective vaccine that can be available all around the world to everyone, so that we no longer have to worry about the coronavirus anymore and that we can actually get back to normal. And a big reason to why this is as still strong as ever, why the pandemic is still growing and why we are seeing bigger numbers all around the world, is largely due to the fact that we still have these insane anti-maskers running amok. If the police can actually do their jobs properly, instead of enabling white supremacy and enabling systemic racism everywhere they go, while demonizing and attacking protesters who are fighting for human rights for everyone, then that treatment that they are giving to Black Lives Matter should only be reserved to those far-right extremists that are promoting anti-mask conspiracy theories. Like, right now, anti-mask people and anti-vaccine people should be considered criminals right now. They are the ones that deserve to be beaten up. They are the ones that deserve to get mass arrests. And by the way, I know that there are going to be tons of those anti-mask people that are going to say like, oh, it's difficult to breathe on a mask. Yeah. Oh, sure, it's difficult to breathe when you're wearing a mask. Let's see if it's also difficult to breathe when a knee is on your neck. So what would be more difficult to breathe? Wearing a mask or you getting the George Floyd treatment? Let me ask you that, huh? So with that said, it's pretty much important to note that we still have to take action and that we really do have to take these anti-mask people accountable, because right now, they really are criminals, and they are doing far more damage than any Black Lives Matter protester. They are not only doing far more damage to their community, but unlike any Black Lives Matter protester, they are causing so many casualties around the world. They should be held accountable for not only the many cases, but they should also be accountable for many of the deaths. Now, it's not necessarily just their fault, because technically the Trump administration should also be held accountable, and like many other governments who are handling the case poorly, from Russia, the UK, Brazil, and many, many more. But the big thing is that we need to hold them accountable. We need to hold these anti-mask people accountable for their actions and force them to go and wear a mask and publicly shame them and ruin their lives if we have to, so that they can stop doing damage to their community, to make them wear masks, to make them practice social distancing, and to have them wash their hands frequently and to follow guidelines instead of spreading false and dangerous misinformation. Because this isn't a political factor. These are about the facts. And with the coronavirus, the virus doesn't matter about your political affiliation or what race you are. We are all in this together. And yes, this does require Republicans and conservatives to work with Democrats and liberals if we want to go and get things be back to normal soon. So again, this is a reminder that we are entering a new phase of the coronavirus all around the world. So it is highly important that you must wear a mask, that you must practice social distancing, that you must wash your hands frequently, and also to hold anti-mask people accountable. So this is just a little bit of a message that I want to go and spread. Like I said before, things are pretty much getting worse around my area. So it's just something that I want to share with you all. So of course, wear a mask. And of course, Black Lives Matter, and hopefully we will have justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. But anyways, with all that said and done, it is now time we are actually going to get into the episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So with all that said, I would like to ask the chat wall, are you all ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you all ready now? Let me hear it. Yes. Ah, man. I miss those days, man. I miss you guys just telling me if you are ready. That is great. I love to see this. And now with that said, let us go and get things started. And with our first story that we have here today, we are going to be talking about a movie that we have heard about for so long. It has been so many years since we have heard that DreamWorks really wants to make this movie, that they have been trying and even had to make a full-on restart in order to go and develop this movie. But for so long we have heard about it, yet we've seen like nothing coming out of it. Until this week, though. And finally, they have not only put out a new image, but even put out a brand new trailer to give us a brand new major full introduction to this sequel to the Croods, in which now they have called it The Croods: A New Age. So let's go ahead and check this one out in 3, 2, 1, go!
My name's Eep.
Bring it stuff.
It's news. And we're the world's first family, the Croods.
Oh, another glorious morning.
Dad always says the pack stays together.
That's my girl.
Seatbelt mode.
Now we're searching for a perfect place to call home.
What the heck is that?
It's the end of the world.
Well, that's it for me. I'm glad it's you, Chunky.
Wow.
Isn't it strange how this food grows in perfectly straight...
Genius.
I thought cave people died off years ago.
We happy meet you. Thanks.
Oh. We are the Bettermans.
Better man?
Emphasis on the better.
Is that your home?
Kind of big, isn't it?
Hey, girl.
Another teenage girl.
Yeah?
A girl.
Friend! I've never had a girlfriend before. Me either. What do we do? What do we say to each other? What's happening to our voices? What's getting so hot? I don't know if cave people belong in a modern world.
What's your problem, big guy?
This place is changing everyone.
Guy?
And we really need to limit Thunk's window time.
Not now, Douglas. The birds are on.
In my day, we didn't stare at birds. We fought them.
Let me live my life.
Whoa, what's that?
It's just a scar.
Every mark is an adventure.
And my dad doesn't even know about this one.
Whoa, peanut toe.
You're not allowed outside the wall?
Nope.
This farm is like your cave. You're just like me.
I feel like taking chances.
You see that wall? Yeah. You want to jump in? Yeah. No! We'll be back before anyone knows.
Like when I close my eyes, don't even care if anyone sees me dance.
You took Dawn for a joyride. The Bettermans built the wall for a reason. That's not good.
The only way to survive is if the pack stays together.
In such a dangerous world, I worry about my families too.
What's that?
Kill circle. Today is a good day to die!
Hey, everyone, you'll never guess what I found out!
Sorry, honey. We thought you were a predator trying to kill us.
No, never apologize for an effective kill circle.
Hold on, stop. You accessorize with a sloth? I accessorize with a sloth. This is built.
Mine's Sash.
Ooh la la!
And that was The Croods: A New Age, which was supposed to be coming out during the Christmas time, but last week they actually announced that they were going to move up the release date to November 25th, which that's going to be something I will talk about a little bit later, by the way. But yeah, this is apparently the entire trailer with The Croods: A New Age, and our first ever look into it. Now, before I go and fully get into my thoughts of The Croods: A New Age and what we got with this trailer, let me just go and discuss a little bit about my thoughts regarding the first Croods movie, the one that it came out back in 2013. And in my opinion, honestly, that film was just, I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it's not really that great either, or really that memorable. If anything, I would actually go and say that it is Chris Sanders' weakest works. At least if you go and compare it to something like Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. Like, with this one, with The Croods, it's just, it's not really all that great. Now, granted, I will give it that it is a beautifully animated movie. Like, it's one of those films where the animators really went all out in the creativity to provide something that is so vibrantly colorful and is filled with so many creative and different types of creatures that they could go and think up, like creating their own prehistoric world with creatures that we would never expect to see. It is definitely a creative, a visually creative feature. But outside of that, though, the other elements are really not that memorable. They're not terrible, but it's just, there's nothing really that is worth remembering about The Croods. Like, you got a pretty predictable, dull story. You also got easily forgettable characters. And then you also got the humor, which I felt like it was very juvenile. Like, it really was the humor that really emphasized that The Croods is just a kid's movie. It's not really a whole family movie that everyone can enjoy in the veins of like Shrek or How to Train Your Dragon or Kung Fu Panda and stuff like that. It was more a film that they really were gearing just towards the kids, and the humor really did went on to emphasize on that. Again, it's not the worst animated film I've seen. It's definitely far from the worst DreamWorks film that they have done. And while it does have its good merits, it's just one of those easily forgettable animated flicks that, like, it just comes and goes quickly, and then, like, we would all just move on. And then we would have The Croods: A New Age, which is now being released about 7.5 years after the original. Which, I do understand the behind-the-scenes element of Croods: A New Age. As I stated before, DreamWorks has spent a very long time trying to develop a second Croods movie, because the first Croods was indeed a massive box office hit, which tempted them to go and try to make a second film. And they tried to develop one, especially with one of the movie's directors, Kirk D'Amico, but unfortunately that never really happened, and even Kirk D'Amico himself went on to go and move to Sony Pictures Animation, where he is currently working on the animated musical Vivo. And from there, we thought that the whole plan was just cancelled, but then it wouldn't be until a little afterwards that they announced that they're going to try another shot at a Croods 2. And more, it seemed like it was going to be a reality. And even though we didn't get any updates, like, we know that thing did exist. It wasn't until just recently that we've heard the news that apparently now they're ready to go and show us some stuff with the Croods A New Age, in which now they gave it that title, and now even giving us an entire trailer for it. So now they're all set up and ready to go and present everyone what they have with the Croods A New Age. So no, and by the way, also, I was about to get into the trailer, but there is one more thing that I would like to mention. The fact that it is 7.5 years after the original coming out, I think that is going to be something that would definitely hinder, at least on the performance on the Croods A New Age financially, or at least in terms of people's interest in it, because 7.5 years really is kind of like an awkward position for a movie sequel, mainly because it's not in an area where it could really capitalize on anything, really. Like, the fact that it's 7.5 years later, it makes it way too late for the Croods to be relevant, for the Croods to actually be popular or to be known as a more recent DreamWorks edition. And even if it is 7.5 years, it's still way too early to be considered a nostalgic movie. You know, it's not like anything where it's like 10 or 11 or 12 years later, where the people grew up with Croods now can revisit that world in a brand new way. So really, that could be something that might not grab as much interest for the audiences as much as probably DreamWorks would hope for with this movie in particular. But anyways, I could be wrong though, but that's just my little comment, like on everything, like with the original Croods, and with A New Age, with the fact that it's being released much later. Now, what about my thoughts on this trailer in particular? How do I feel about the first look of the Croods A New Age? And in that regard, I would say, yeah, honestly, so far it looks like we're pretty much getting the same thing. Honestly, it feels like, in terms of the quality, it's gonna be the same thing like we got before with the first Croods. Because I will say this, in terms of the positives, because there are some actual good things to say about the Croods. And one of the great things about A New Age is that it does bring back the massive strengths of the original and bringing back that beautiful animation. And it looks like, again, they're really going to go all out with the visuals. Especially one thing to really note is with the colors, actually. Let me see here. Like, yeah, going into this little area, like once they enter into like this new like paradise, you could see the amount of detail that they would go and put in the area. You could see the colors that are just all over the place, and even the art style itself, in which it's a little bit more of a new twist of the Chris Sanders style that we have previously gotten before with movies like How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch as well, where it is definitely going to be a massive eye candy movie. And not to mention that it also does promise a whole bunch of brand new creatures, because that's also another great thing about the Croods. It really is the world building of the area and how they've created all these different creatures that blends elements of nature and with many different animals, or even just combining a bunch of animals together. Like some notable ones that I could mention, like there's a moment where you see Eep and the new teenage girl that's going to be played by Kelly Marie Tran. in which like they fly over these giant bugs, which is kind of like a mixture of a dragonfly and like and like a tree, basically, because like the body of the dragonfly is like a piece, it's like a kind of like a tree bark or like a stick, and like the wings are just massive fall leaves, and a lot of them are beautiful. And not to mention, there's also a moment that I saw. Okay, that's not a creature, that's just Peter Dinklage's character just being dragged out. Like, yeah, over here, like, you also got wolf spiders, like, literal wolf spiders that's a combination of a wolf and a spider. So you also got, like, many of these creative, different ideas, and, again, really playing a lot with color and especially with the creativity of the animation. Like, it will be promising us that it will also be action-packed, where you got these characters interacting with many of these creatures, especially like even in the opening as well, where you see the main Croods family running away from these like armadillo kangaroos, and Eep trying to fight back against one of them. So, of course, visually, this is definitely going to be awesome. And by the way, there is one more little comment that I want to go and just quickly mention. And I know some people might think, like, oh, it might sound stupid of me, and yeah, I will risk sounding a bit stupid. But I just need to go and say, hold on, where would it be? Yeah, like, right here. Am I the only one that feels like Mrs. Betterman is absolutely hot here? I don't know about you. That's the one thing I am surprised about this trailer and following afterwards. I'm surprised there isn't a fan base yet for Mrs. Betterman, because, whoo, man, she is fine. And not to mention as well, that she got a booty for days, man. She is in competition with Pixar right now against the mom from Onward and Mrs. Incredible and even Bo Peep in order to get the best MILF booty. Like, this is fat as hell. Ooh. Anyways, but yeah, no, she's I don't know about you, I just feel like she's just incredibly hot. But anyways, sorry about that, folks. Alright, back to what I was talking about, with this over here. Back to talking about the whole trailer. Now, those are just the positives, that I do have with the trailer that we got here. Other than that, though, there really isn't that much that I am excited about, especially regarding the story. Like, that's probably the one thing that I do feel that it's probably the biggest turnoff that I do have from this trailer in particular. Because there's just something about it that feels way too familiar, that I've already experienced this before. And I'm sure that you guys have also experienced this plenty of times before. And I try to figure it out what it is. I try to think about what this type of story is. Because this story has already been done plenty of times before, and I've seen people mention a few movies in which this kind of plot line sounds very familiar, where you got, like, the main characters where they enter upon this new world, and they're greeted by the new characters and interact with them and learn their ways and try to fight whatever evil is in front of them. Like, we've already experienced this with movies such as Smurfs: The Lost Village and even last year's Ugly Dolls. But it's not necessarily that. And I try to think even further about what it is. What is it about the story that makes it a little too familiar? And then suddenly I tried thinking about it, and I just got it. Suddenly I realized, wait a minute, I know why this sounds familiar. I know why Croods: A New Age doesn't feel as original as it probably should be. This whole plot that we got here, I don't know if you guys realize this, we're watching the Croods. And I don't mean like, it's Croods: A New Age. No. This plot line is exactly the same as the first movie. Like, really think about it. If you guys do remember the first Croods, like, let's think a little bit of the summary of what that movie is all about. Okay, so apparently you got this caveman family, And one of them wants to go out and about and try to explore the world that's outside of their own, to go and see like what else is there outside of their old home in the cave, which they want to stay safe in there from any of the danger in the outside world. So as the main girl would go and explore, she would go and meet up with this more modern caveman named Guy, in which he is considered a genius in a way and has developed all these different inventions that are familiar to our modern aesthetics, or that are more familiar to what we have in the real world. And from there, Guy would introduce himself to the whole family, and he would show everyone what is the new world that is around them that they have yet to go and experience. But then you also got the dad character that's a little bit iffy about Guy and his new modern ways. He is the most reluctant in terms of adapting to the modern times and wants to head back into the cave and go back to the traditional format, if you know what I mean. And then from there, that's where we learn to get a message about family and how the importance of sticking together, while it is also important to go and learn about some new things, to go and explore and to adapt into some modern times. So it's a little bit of like the best of both worlds kind of message. Alright, so, and keep in mind, that is all just the first Croods. What do we got here with A New Age? What is it that we got in terms of the plot that they are showing us, at least in the trailer? Well, you got the whole family, you got the whole Croods family, in which right now, it seems like they're looking for a new home, a little bit similar to last time, because in the first movie, they did lose their cave, and like a big part of what they want to do is try to find a new home. So as they're looking for a new home, they suddenly stumble upon this brand new land, a brand new world that they have yet to fully explore, in which they meet up with brand new characters that are a little bit more modern compared to the Croods that are just primitive caveman. And from there, these new characters, which are literally called the Bettermans, they would go and show them their new ways, their new modern aesthetic, and they would go and show them all these new things that they have at their disposal in this brand new colorful land. And of course, you got the dad that's a little bit more reluctant of their new ways and wants to go back a little bit to some of the more traditional format of living. And then you could probably guess from there, they'll learn about family, the importance of sticking together, while also important to learn about new ways and to adapt to some of the modern things that they have at their disposal. It's literally just recycling the plot elements from last time and just putting it onto here. I mean, DreamWorks had about 7.5 years to try to develop a brand new movie, and the best they could come up with is the same thing as what they did before? Like, are you kidding me? And that's really the biggest turnoff that I do have from this movie. I mean, yes, it is definitely visually pleasing. It is definitely a beautiful movie to look at. But outside of that, there's little to nothing that I feel like is really original, at least in terms of the narrative or even with the characters that they do have, because it looks like the characters are just going to do the same shtick like they did before in the first movie. And that's my biggest problem, is just really the lack of originality that it's offering me. As great as the animation can be, it's not necessarily enough for me to really jump into this brand new Croods. It's not really enough for me to check out what else they have with A New Age, because for the most part, it looks like the stuff that I do have, I could just go and check it out with the first Croods, and it wouldn't necessarily be all that different. I mean, of course, I can be open to the idea that I could be wrong, and there's definitely a lot more than meets the eye with A New Age. Maybe it could be a massive surprise, and they could deliver something that could be completely different than what the trailer is presenting us here. But so far, I will say, this is really not getting me interested into seeing what they have with A New Age, because a lot of it, again, it's just the same thing as before. They're barely giving us anything new with it. And that's going to be a major problem for me when watching this. It's just like, Like, if I am gonna go and see this, like, probably on the big screen, there's gonna be a part of, and this is probably gonna be a massive problem for audiences in general as well, especially when we do live in the age of the pandemic. Because if most of this is going to be the Croods, then what's the point of risking your health and safety to go to the big screen when you could just watch the first movie that's practically the same as what we got here safely at home? That's really my biggest question. So for me, honestly, I can't help but feel like it's mostly the same thing. I could see the effort and the creativity that is put upon the animation, but other than that, though, with the writing that they got, it just feels like feels like we're just going to be getting, again, we're going to be getting the same thing all over again. And after 7.5 years and trying to make a full restart on the Croods 2, it just feels like a massive disappointment that DreamWorks would end up going with this kind of lazy route with this movie in particular. So yeah, so I'll say overall, I'm not really all that interested in the Croods, A New Age. And if you guys are still interested, if you are still curious to check it out, then keep in mind it will be coming out on November 25th. Okay, so with that said, let us now go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you all think about the trailer of The Croods: A New Age? Are you guys actually excited to go and check this out? Are you guys not interested in seeing mostly the same thing with A New Age? Let me know what you all think now. Okay. Let's see. What do we have here? It looks alright, the animation does look good, and when Nicolas Cage says, what the heck, I thought he said, what the F, and are they doing the same marketing campaign like Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War's marketing, how they show the trailer 2 months before it gets released, when this November is gonna get crazy with next-gen consoles, new games, and new movies. Well, hey, at least the Croods doesn't cost $70 for cross-gen, and to quote Pathfinder from Apex Legends, this sounds like it'll be fun. Okay, alright. Let's see what else we got here. This new Croods movie is pretty interesting. Like, I like the first movie. Yeah, it's a weak movie, but it's nice, I guess. But this one is pretty interesting. We'll see how it goes. Megamind sequel next, maybe? By the way, buy a new rug. It rhymes with rug. Yeah, I don't know if they have announced a new Megamind movie yet. Like, you still have to wait a long time for that. Even if they are thinking about it anyways. Let's see here. The film looks fine. Yeah, that's it. The film undeniably looks beautiful, and I'll admit the kill circle joke did hit. But the story sounds a little weak, and let's be real, does anyone remember the first Croods? It's not a bad film per se, I found it okay, but it's probably one of the more obscure DreamWorks films. If I do decide to see A New Age, I'll really need to rewatch the first film just to refresh my memory. But to be fair, it'll be entertaining to witness part 2 of Grug Moment. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much with you on the first Croods. Again, I just want to say, it's not a bad film at all. It's just one of those films that's just really easily forgettable. It's one of those DreamWorks films that would just come and go quickly. Like, you would forget that it would even exist in the first place, or even forget that it's a part of DreamWorks in the first place. Okay, so what else would we have here now? Let's see. I was 12 when the first one came out, and I didn't see it even when I was in the phase when I wanted to be an animator, and 7 years later, I still haven't seen it. It just feels too little too late. It was a modest hit when it came out, but nobody I know talks about it like How to Train Your Dragon. I'm just happy that Kelly Marie Tran is getting more work, and this appears to respect her a bit more than Abrams did. Yes, not even a global pandemic won't stop me from being bitter. Nah, I know how you feel, man. Rise of Skywalker really did treat her dirty, and at least, like, she'll get a lot more time on this movie. And I will give this movie that, well, the voice acting is not that bad. Like, at least, like, you could definitely hear the actors are definitely doing the most that they can with the materials that they're given. The only problem is just the materials that they are given, which really isn't necessarily a whole lot. So at least we can, like, and there are, like, definitely a lot of great actors in there. It's not just Kelly Marie Tran, but also, I mean, this is one of those movies that has, like, a full-on all-star cast. Hold on a second, let me just back this up. Yeah, like, in the credits, like, at the end of the trailer, they even mentioned that they got people like Nicolas Cage, Emma Stone, Ryan Reynolds, Peter Dinklage, Leslie Mann, and Kelly Marie Tran. So this is one of those all-star, cast movies. And honestly, like, I could definitely expect some solid performances coming from this film. But will they actually be effective? Will they actually help out with the movie? That I don't know. Let's see now. Doesn't it feel like we haven't heard about this movie until this month? Honestly, while I do want to live on that farm, I'm not going to literally die in order to see it in theaters. But Ryan Reynolds is in it, so obviously I have to see it. Personally conflicted, but at least it looks pretty. No, you are definitely not wrong there. I just want to mention, you're definitely not wrong where it just suddenly feels like, oh, now we are just hearing about this, because for a long time, DreamWorks and Universal have been pretty silent about the Croods too. They were only mentioning that it was just gonna happen, and literally that's it. It was at the point where people are even questioning, or they were even questioning, if it was still gonna happen, if it was still gonna exist. It wasn't until now that we do have a confirmation that, oh, look at this. This actually did turn out to be a thing. Alright, so I'm just gonna go and read one more comment before we're gonna jump on to, or actually two more comments before we jump into the next story. Let's see here. Wow, can't believe they're making a sequel to a movie that came out in 2013 when DreamWorks also released a movie with Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, Turbo. And the same year that How to Train Your Dragon 2 and Penguins of Madagascar movie was a jam-packed year, with the only movie succeeding being How to Train Your Dragon 2, and that's the year that supposedly made DreamWorks to lose a lot of money and start a file for Chapter 3 bankruptcy. And now we saw, oh boy, wow, you're really going into a lot of descriptions right there, dude. Okay, anyways, let's read one more. Okay. I did like the first Croods, but I don't feel that excited for this movie. Sure, the colors and designs are just amazing, but the story doesn't really engage me, and the humor doesn't feel more the humor does feel more like it is for kids. So I might skip over this one. As to what you said about Mrs. Betterman, I got 4 words for you. Go to horny jail, bonk. Yeah, I remember when I made that social media post, and I was kind of surprised the amount of people demanding me to go to horny jail for that. Hey, I mean, to be fair, I mean, it's one of my first experiences of people demanding me to go to horny jail, and you never know, maybe it won't be the last time. Okay, so now with this one out of the way, it is now time we're gonna go and jump onto our next story. And with the next story that I have, this is actually going to be an update from one of my previous stories that I talked about in the last episode. Now, you might recall that I discussed about a lot of potential changes in the movie schedules. You might recall I talked about movies such as Black Widow, Pixar's Soul, Croods the New Age, coincidentally, and also Sony's Connected, where they decided to go and consider to switch things up with their release dates. A lot of them mostly just decided to take out their release dates that they had over there, and Croods A New Age was the only one that had a new confirmed release date. Well, at least for Disney, they actually have a new plan. Ooh, excuse me. That's just the water and my lunch coming back. But anyways, Disney this week announced a brand new schedule with not just regarding some of the movies that they have considered switching before, but they have also made a major plan for the end of this year and for 2021 with what's going to be coming up with their feature films, both in terms of Disney and 20th Century Studios. So let's go ahead and check out Disney's new plan. First and foremost, probably the biggest change that they have done was regarding with Black Widow. Last week, they pulled it out from its November 6th release date, and now they decided they're going to go and move it all the way forward onto May 7th, 2021. But, like I talked about before, when it's a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, you can't just delay one MCU film. You gotta delay a whole bunch of them as well. And that's exactly what they have done. Where also Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings has also been moved to July 9th, 2021, while the Eternals has been moved all the way to next year on November 5th, 2021. But on top of that, there seems to be a whole lot more delays than that. Because also, we got West Side Story, the big anticipated musical remake by Steven Spielberg, is no longer going to be released at the end of this year. So instead of December 18th, that's actually going to be moved to December 10th, 2021. Meanwhile, that December release date is actually going to be given to Death of the Nile, the sequel to Murder on the Orient Express, which that one was supposed to be released on October 23rd, which means this is even more bad news for movie theaters. I'll get a little bit more to that later. But anyways, there are also a whole bunch of other delays that they have done at the same time. Well, actually, not all of them are delays, actually. You got The King's Man, in which that actually got bumped forward instead of back. It got moved up by a couple of weeks, from February 26, 2021 to February 12th, 2021. Meanwhile, you also got The Empty Man, which now that is actually going to be released on October 23rd. Meanwhile, Deep Water was supposed to be coming out on November 13th, but now it's going to be heavily delayed to August 13th, 2021. However, there is something that is very interesting. Probably the most interesting thing from all this is not regarding which schedule has been changed, but rather which one is still staying in place. And Disney actually has a couple of major films that they have decided to stick their guns with in order to go and stay on that release date, to keep it there, not moved anywhere, and have it be said to be released in theaters. First and foremost, there is Pixar's Soul, in which they have decided to keep that movie on its November 2020 release date. And on top of that, it seems to be confirmed that Disney, for now, has decided to not move it to Disney+. They are still gonna plan to go and release Soul on the big screen. Where it was actually today that they have announced that there is going to be an animated short, a Spark short, that is going to be released at the same time as Pixar's Soul, and they even mentioned that yes, it will be released on the big screen in theaters. So apparently that seems to be the big plan with Soul. Meanwhile, there is also Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds video game, that's still going to be staying on its end of the year release date on December 11th. So that apparently is all the major plans and all the major change-ups that Disney has done so far. And I will say that, honestly, there are some surprises as well, but some expected things at the same time. Like, one thing that I was not surprised, of course, is the fact that not only did they delay Black Widow, but also delayed a few more other movies at the same time, like Shang-Chi and the Eternals. I was expecting maybe something a little bit bigger, like maybe also moving some of their films in 2022, but it looks like so far they're only staying within the realm of just the end of this year and also 2021 at the same time. So that's why we don't see a lot of major change-ups. And there are probably some movies as well they didn't really change a whole lot at the same time. Like, so far, it looks like they're still keeping Cruella de Vil on that release date, you know, like the Emma Stone Cruella de Vil movie that they have planned. And also, there is the Jungle Cruise movie that's still at the end of July 2021. So they still got those prepared for that time. So at the very least, the changes do seem to be minor, and everything else does seem a little bit minor as well, with the exception of West Side Story moving all the way down to 2021, or at least the end of 2021, which I can imagine eventually there will be some massive change-ups because of that. I'm sure there are going to be some major movies that are planned during that time that might want to consider to go and move or maybe get out of the way in case if West Side Story ends up becoming like stupidly big, because you never know, especially when it is something that is as legendary as West Side Story. And I'm sure Disney is going to go and try to promote this as like a major motion picture event, especially with the fact that it's directed by Steven Spielberg. They're going to make this into a big award season movie, like a big Oscar bait film. And not to mention that it is based on one of the most well-known movie musicals out there, or at least one of the more popular musicals. Like, they're going to make West Side Story a big deal. But then, probably the most shocking thing is, honestly, what they did with Soul. Is the fact that they really are sticking to their guns, and they're going to keep it with a theatrical release date. And at first, with this news, I thought, like, okay, maybe they'll consider to put it on Disney+, maybe they'll just keep it in theaters, I don't know what they're going to do, but it's only until today that they did confirm that, yes, they're planning to go and put this on the big screen. They're actually committed to putting Soul in theaters, where people would have to go to the cinemas to actually go and see Soul instead of Disney+. Now, I did talk to a friend of mine at one point, and we have discussed about like what would be Disney's plan. And my friend actually did bring up maybe there is a chance that they could do something a little bit similar to what Universal is doing with their deal with AMC. Because if you guys recall, AMC has done a deal with Universal, or they both agreed to have this little special deal that Universal would be allowed to go and put out their movies on the big screen for about 18 days. And then after that 18 days, they would be allowed to go and release their movie on video on demand, or private video or premium video on demand, so that people could go and check it out at home. And some people, and there is a chance that maybe Disney would want to do that as well, that they would start by putting Soul on the big screen to test things out, and then a few weeks later, they'll go and immediately put it out on Disney+, maybe give it a premium access, you know, just to go and really test things out, especially with something that is anticipated and as big as Soul, because a lot of people are definitely hyping this up. Especially with the fact that this is a Pete Docter directed movie. This is the guy who has done Monsters Inc., who has done Up, and who has done Inside Out, and is currently the chief creative officer of Pixar Animation Studios. So there's a lot of anticipation that's really building up for this movie in particular. So I guess Disney would want to go and try to take the risk and see with their Pixar film that they want to try to go and experiment if they want to see if they'll have this new format going on. But either way, I will say that I am surprised that Disney is still committed in putting it out on the big screen. I understand that technically it is, it's still going to be released on November 20th, and you never know how the coronavirus is going to be, rather if, the second wave from all around the world might actually improve from there, or even in America, we don't know if things are going to get better or worse. Some could say that it's technically a little bit better because they're averaging on 40,000 new cases a day instead of 60 or 70 60 or 70,000 new cases a day, but that's still, it doesn't mean that America isn't freaking hopeless when it comes to the coronavirus. But it's a massive gamble, and I'm surprised that they really are gonna go and take it with Soul. Which, by the way, I just want to go and add that because Disney and Pixar is actually doing this, that pretty much means that the Croods A New Age has, they're screwed. Because that's the big reason why they decided to go and delay, or they decided to move up the release date of the Croods. They actually gambled on the idea that maybe Disney is going to go and delay Soul, or that they're going to move it to Disney Plus, thus giving the Croods more room to go and actually perform well on the big screen. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case, and I think there's a very strong chance that the Croods is gonna be a massive goner. Like, now, it really needs to depend on video on demand services if DreamWorks and Universal would ever want to see any profits coming from that. Because you gotta keep in mind, during this American Thanksgiving, it's not just gonna be Pixar's Soul that's gonna be released, but also, you got the next James Bond film, No Time to Die. That's also going to be scheduled around American Thanksgiving. And apparently, that's going to be released at the same time as the Croods A New Age. So, I'm just going to say right now, in the position that the Croods is right now, it's a goner, man. Not just that, but already with some of the discussions that I've already brought up before with the Croods A New Age, it's just right now, like, even if the trailer would actually be better than what we've already gotten, it's really in a bad spot right now where it's stuck between a freaking James Bond film and an anticipated Pixar movie, so yeah, things are really looking bad. Like, I mean, I'll admire Universal for trying to take the gamble on it and try to compete against Disney for that American Thanksgiving release date, but yeah, I think there ain't gonna be a contest with this one. I'm just gonna say that right now. But overall, with these new changes, they are definitely understandable, and with a lot of these, Disney doesn't want to risk too much with some of their major movies, or they probably have some contracts where they can't even move some of these films onto Disney Plus. Like, they can't take something like Black Widow and like put that on Disney Plus, like what they just did with Mulan. And it's all understandable with what they're doing with all the delays and some of the schedule changes, but it is going to be very interesting to see how things are going to be with Pixar's Soul, if that is going to pay off well, or if that's not even worth it. If maybe they would have to do like what Sony is currently doing and just wait until the pandemic is officially over until they would have to go and put out movies on the big screen, but ultimately, I don't know, like, we'll just wait and see with what happens. Then again, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney would get a significant amount of backlash for releasing Soul on the big screen, but overall, it's a major wait and see with what they're going to do with this. Honestly, I am curious to know what is their overall plan with Pixar's Soul. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, how do you all feel about all these schedule changes? How do you feel about Disney's new plan with releasing movies in the end of the year and also in 2021? Are there some that you're a bit disappointed about? Are there some that you're surprised about? Are there some that you're actually happy about? Let me know what you all think. I see there's already someone who's like really excited for it. The fact that Soul is still going to be on cinemas is just wonderful news. Life does suck, but stuff like this makes it worth it. Putting Soul, apparently putting Soul in the cinemas, that makes life worth it. I don't know, at least getting, just getting Soul would be a blessing in itself. Regardless if it were released, at home or in the cinemas or whatever. I'm just saying. Really, if life improving mean, if putting a Pixar film on the big screen means that life is improving, I don't know. I think you need to reevaluate what improving life means, Let's see what else we got here. All these delays are a bit concerning with the fate of theaters, but I completely understand why they made them with how the pandemic is going. The decision to keep Soul where it is a little weird, but maybe the pandemic will die down by then. And regarding Free Guy, I guess that means there will be 2 movies released around the same time where Ryan Reynolds portrays a dude named Guy, the Guy cinematic universe. Oh my god, that is actually true. Oh my god. Like, if you do think about it, like, technically you got the Croods, in which Ryan Reynolds' character is actually called Guy, and then, well, hold on a sec, then again, is, like, I know the movie is called Free Guy, but is Ryan Reynolds actually playing a character named Guy? I don't know. If that would be the case, like, that would actually be amazing. And I would be excited to see all the fan art of Guy being in the poster of Free Guy. I don't know. It's like, it would bring up some good ideas there. Let's see. What else do we got here? Delays. What else is new? At this point, just watching an egg hatch into a baby bird or reptile, or waiting for your crops to grow into fully edible vegetables are more fascinating than having to wait for a movie to be released. And I bet we aren't going to get the new Suicide Squad movie or Guardian... Okay, excuse me about that. And I bet we aren't going to see the new Suicide Squad movie or Guardians of the Galaxy 3 until 2022 or 2023. I wonder if in the future films would be forced to make their films cheaper just in case the coronavirus gets yet another outburst or spreading. I would say most likely. Let's see now. What do we got here? To quote Plankton, well, this stinks. Honestly, I truly believe that they are delaying all these films because of how Tenet hasn't been doing well financially. And at this point, I think the studios should just do what Sony is doing and wait for a vaccine. And this is also the first time since 2009 where we have no MCU movie in a year, and at most, the only MCU content we're getting in 2020 is just WandaVision on Disney Plus later this year, since we got a trailer for it not too long ago during the Emmys. Well, believe it or not, dude, in terms of your comment with Tenet, you are actually correct. It even mentioned here, actually, there is a little quote coming from my source on The Hollywood Reporter, as it states... the latest round of changes to Disney's calendar underscores the continuing challenges facing the box office and the ongoing pandemic, as well as production delays. They also follow the muted box office performance of Christopher Nolan's Tenet in the US. And by the way, I just want to mention that, yes, when it comes to cinemas, right now they really are screwed. So right now, they gotta wait for 2 whole months until the next big movie comes in with Pixar's Soul. Meanwhile, they gotta face 2 more months of just pure emptiness, of nothing that would really get audiences be fully interested to check something out on the big screen. So yeah, like, honestly, if it's not the coronavirus that's going to cause problems with movie theaters, it's definitely going to be those 2 months for sure, since a lot of them are still open, and because of that, their money is going to drain a lot faster than before, unless their respective governments would demand them to go and do like a full-on lockdown again. That could actually help them out so that they could save a bit more money. Anyways, let's go and check out more comments here. Where would he be? Here we go. Wow, more movie delays. Yay! But can the movies in the fall be put on streaming services or delay them to next year? Because I don't want to go to theaters because we might get infected by both the flu and the virus, and Disney should delay Soul to February or next year because of Black History Month, and companies should just follow what Sony is doing and wait for a freaking vaccine. Oh my god, dude, you might actually bring up a very good point. I mean, technically, I'm just gonna say right now, it might be very unlikely because Disney has already put out, Disney has already scheduled Raya and the Last Dragon for March. So if they would go and delay Soul to February, then that would also mean they would have to find a new release date for Raya and the Last Dragon, and then also Luca and so on and so forth. But I am going to say, dude, that idea of putting Soul onto Black History Month, that is not a bad idea. You are onto something, dude. That is actually genius right there. Holy crap. That would actually be a pretty solid idea. Alright, I'm going to go and read one more comment. before we jump on to the next story. Just a small one. I feel like most of it is needed, although I'm disappointed about In the Heights. Croods' plan is just stupid, to be honest. Oh, about In the Heights, that is true. Like, that ended up getting delayed to what? Like, either, what, is it delayed to either the summer of 2021, or is it the December of 2021? That is actually a very good question. Yes, In the Heights, yeah, it's delayed to 2021, but when to 20... Yeah, okay, summer of 2021, so technically it should be fine, but yeah, I understand it is disappointing that In the Heights did get delayed to 2021, because I know that for many people it was their most anticipated movie of 2020. So yeah, we got more delays, but as long as the coronavirus is still strong, we might have to go and expect a bit more. Alright, so jumping on to the next story, speaking of Soul and Pixar, by the way, we actually got another story that is related to Disney and Pixar. However, with this one, they are going to be dealing with, once again, another lawsuit. And yes, this is going to be one of those lawsuits where you got someone who decided to look up to one of Pixar's popular movies and try to sue them by saying, hey, you stole my idea. Like, you know, that old song and dance number that Disney has already went through again and again and again. However, with this one, this might be a little bit more interesting, though. There might be some legit evidence and some good explanations onto why this lawsuit is being done. Because the lawsuit is actually being made by none other than Evel Knievel's son. Apparently, Kelly Knievel, the son of the legendary Evel Knievel, is suing Disney and Pixar for Toy Story 4's Duke Caboom. You might remember Duke Caboom, who was voiced by Keanu Reeves, where he is this Canadian daredevil action figure, where he's pretty much on this motorcycle, and the point of him is that he's supposed to like really jump far. But because he is a bit of a defunct toy, he ended up getting sold. And there's this hilarious bit where he always has this regret for his old master Régent. So that's why you often see you often see Duke Caboom always like in sorrow. It's like, Régent, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Oh man, that bit is just fantastic. But anyways, going back into this, yes. Because Duke Caboom looks a little too similar to Evel Knievel, they want to go and, apparently Kelly Knievel is prepared to take his company and go sue Pixar because of the likeness of Evel Knievel, and they felt like they need to be a little bit paid for that. In fact, to read from my source here on Deadline, the lawsuit states, defendants have used in commerce and continue to use in commerce the likeness, reputation, and image of Evel Knievel in the film Toy Story 4 through defendants' depiction of Duke Caboom, and has exploited the same connection through marketing, promotion, advertising, and sales of Toy Story 4, and in connection with the manufacturing, distribution, marketing, advertising, promotion, and sales of the Duke Caboom action figure, all without the consent of approval of K&K. Which K&K is the Evel Knievel company. Continuing forward, it says here, as a direct and proximate result of defendants' unlawful appropriation of Evel Knievel's rights of publicity, K&K has suffered and will continue to suffer monetary damages to its business, reputation, and goodwill. Now, one thing I would like to go and emphasize is that technically, in terms of these lawsuits, they're apparently K&K is not looking for anything too big, actually. In terms of these types of lawsuits, the amount of money that they are looking for is a little bit minor, I would say. Usually they would try to go and sue for like millions of dollars, but in this case here, It looks like it actually says the 7 claims suit from Sin City law firm Kemp Jones LLP seeks an array of damages exceeding $75,000. So for a company like Disney and Pixar, $75,000 is a bit of chump change, you know? It's not necessarily that big of a loss for them. However, even if it's not that big, Disney is still gonna go and fight back. They're not just gonna say, okay, you're right, here you go. They're not gonna do that. They will fight back in court. In fact, Deadline wittingly says here, even though at first glance Toy Story 4's Caboom does seem undeniably very Knievel in many ways, Disney seeks to have the lawsuit crash faster than Evel's not-so-successful 1975 jump at London's Wembley Stadium over 13 buses. The claims are without merit, and we intend to defend against them vigorously in court, a spokesperson for the Pixar owner for the Pixar owner said today. And that seems to be the major thing right now with this lawsuit. And just in case, by the way, if for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with Evel Knievel, I just want to say with Evel Knievel, he's the guy that pretty much revolutionized and set the standard of what it means to be a modern daredevil. This is the guy who pretty much made an icon of jumping through tons of vehicles or make a massive jump through a canyon using only his motorcycle. Like, that's the kind of daredevil that he is. And not only is he very well known, but of course he has he was a major influence and inspiration for many daredevils that we do see today trying to pull the same kind of insane stunts. And I just want to say that there is something very interesting with this lawsuit because technically I could actually see some of the points that Kelly Knievel is bringing up with this lawsuit here. With the fact that they are mentioning that with Duke Caboom, they do seem like that character does seem a little too similar to Evel Knievel. I mean, this is a dude on a motorcycle trying to go and jump through crazy stuff, because that's the point of the action figure, is that he's supposed to be this crazy daredevil meant to go and like jump to massive heights. And especially with Duke Caboom, like, he does think that he's the real deal. Well, not in the same style of Buzz Lightyear thinking that he's a real space ranger, but he does think that he's a massive daredevil that he could go and take his motorcycle and make these crazy jumps, even though that's the reason why he got abandoned by his kid, Régent. And from there, and on top of that, probably the biggest similarities would debatably be with his costume, with the fact that technically he looks a lot like Evel Knievel, but given an entire Canadian attire. Because if you look at the signature costume of Evel Knievel, he definitely dressed up full on in like America. Like, you got the red stripes, you got the white stars on the blue banner, and it is mostly white, so it's pretty much a very patriotic costume that he would wear. And the same thing would go with Duke Caboom. Not necessarily American, but you could definitely see the whole patriotic theme all based on Canada, where his motorcycle has a big Canadian flag. His entire attire is mostly white, and you got some red elements there as well. Not to mention that he does copy the cape as well, because that's another thing that Evel Knievel would often have, is that sometimes he would wear a cape during his shows. So it is undeniable that in terms of the likeness of Duke Caboom and Evel Knievel, they are very similar, and there might be a bit of a fine line where there is a fine line between inspiration and just flat out copying. So there might be a bit of validity in Kelly Knievel's court case, that there could be a chance that if he plays his cards right, and he does show the evidence of what Pixar has done with Duke Caboom, then maybe there is a chance that he could actually win this court case. However, there is one problem, though. There is one flaw that I would say that might end up screwing this entire court case over, and Pixar could just walk away scot-free. Because here's the thing, like I said before, Evel Knievel is possibly the most influential daredevil out there and has revolutionized what it means to be a modern daredevil. Now, with that said, does that mean that Evel Knievel owns the image of a dude making crazy stunts with his motorcycle? Because you could probably imagine that there are still plenty of crazy daredevils to this day that want to go and take their motorcycle and jump through like 10 boats or something like that. Now, does that mean that when it comes to motorcycle daredevilists, would they have to pay royalties and residuals to K&K in order for them to go and make crazy stunts to jump through a cliff with their motorcycle and stuff like that? Like, that's gonna be the major problem. Where's the fine line between the common motorcyclist daredevil and the iconography of Evel Knievel? Like, you probably have heard about the controversies whenever there would be some companies that would try to trademark or copyright a very common word or something that is very commonly used in people's everyday lives. You know, like a good example, like the infamous case of Warner Brothers owning the Happy Birthday song, for example. Where is that fine line between what belongs to the people and what belongs to Evel Knievel? And that's the thing with that really is the thing with Duke Caboom, is that technically you could say the biggest inspiration is Evel Knievel. That really, because Evel Knievel is the most popular daredevil out there. But that's not to say that technically Evel Knievel is not the only motorcyclist daredevil out there. There are plenty of others as well. There are plenty of other daredevils to this day that are very similar to Duke Caboom, that they would take their motorcycles and they would go and jump through everything. So how much of that iconography of the motorcyclist motorcyclist daredevil that Evel Knievel actually does own? And overall, that's why I do feel like this whole court case is a massive gray area, and I do understand the arguments of both sides, and I can definitely see how both sides can actually go. Because on one hand, you got the iconography of Evel Knievel that is very iconic, that is very well known, and that you look at Duke Caboom and yeah, there are tons of massive similarities to Evel Knievel. But then again, how much of that iconography actually belongs to Evel Knievel and not to the public? That, you know, how much of that is just a common thing for daredevilists out there who would use their motorcycles? That's the big problem with all this. You know, that's why I do see that this could really go either way. And I personally do feel like this is a very interesting discussion to have. You know, I feel like this is a great discussion piece that people could have to know their opinions regarding how things are. Because admittedly, I don't really know much about daredevils out there. And I don't really know much about, like, the kind of motorcycle daredevilists that would go and jump through a bunch of, like, vehicles or jump through a gorge or stuff like that. You know, I'll admit, I'm no expert on it, and if the case would be that I am completely wrong on that, then you know what, so be it. I'll own up to my mistake. But I feel like this could be a very interesting discussion that, like, regarding, is Duke Caboom a massive ripoff of Evel Knievel? And should Kelly Knievel win this court case in particular, or should he not? Because this iconography doesn't fully belong to Evel Knievel. I feel, you know, honestly, I just feel like this is a very good discussion piece right over here. And speaking of discussion piece, that's why I want to know from you guys, what do you all think in the chat wall about this entire court case about Kelly Knievel suing Pixar for the image of Duke Caboom? Do you think Kelly Knievel is right to go and sue Pixar for Duke Caboom's image? Do you think that Pixar might end up going scot-free with it? Do you think it's wrong to do that in the lawsuit? Let me know what you think. Okay, let's see what we got here. I get that Evel Knievel's son is trying to protect his dad's image, but really, Duke Caboom has nothing to do with Evel Knievel. Duke is from Canada, while Evel is from Montana. I'm guessing they have this lawsuit just because Duke is a daredevil and has an outfit like Evel Knievel's, only Canadian theme and opposite to America. I see Disney beating them in all, honestly. Well, I mean, technically, I'll just say, in Knievel's defense, like, just because you're, just because like you got a Canadian themed Daredevil, that doesn't mean that it's completely different from Evel Knievel. Like, that's just a minor difference. But with that said, like, I could definitely see Disney beating Knievel in the lawsuit as well, because we're forgetting about one major factor. It's frickin' Disney. They own, like, some of the biggest and best lawyers in the world, and they know exactly what to do in order to defend themselves in this case. And plus the fact that like I said in the beginning, this ain't their first rodeo. They know what to do, and these lawyers are well trained into figuring out what to say and what to do in these types of court cases. So I think there is a very strong chance that Disney might come out of this perfectly fine. Let's see, what else do we have here? I think that on one hand, Evel Knievel revolutionized the way daredevils are, and Pixar is a pretty great company, but I just think that Pixar had no awareness of Himtree. I just thought it's kind of like Lion King and Kimba the White Lion conspiracy theory. Okay, no. Hold on a sec. I'm just gonna say this. I think Pixar is aware. I think the people at Pixar were very aware of Evel Knievel, and I think honestly, like, it would make a lot more sense. Like, I think it makes more sense that they actually did take some inspiration from Evel Knievel in order to go and make the design of Duke Caboom. Like, honestly, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think like Pixar has definitely taken some inspiration from Evel Knievel in order to create the character. Now, absolutely not of malice, of course. It's just taking inspiration, you know, like trying to do an homage. I'm sure that the animators and the designers definitely meant well when creating Duke Caboom. Well, honestly, though, the idea of, like, having it be a coincidence and that, oh, we're unaware about Duke Caboom, yeah, no, that would not be the case whatsoever. Let's see now. Another lawsuit that is rather reasonable. Now I am just thinking back to Onward and the lawsuit over the unicorn van. Though I do think Duke Caboom is probably more meant to be an affectionate parody of Evel Knievel rather than being a ripoff. And there you go. I think with that comment right there, you just ended up giving Disney the lawsuit. Disney just won with that. Because technically, it is true. You could say that it is technically, you could say Duke Caboom is actually a parody to Evel Knievel. And I mean, this is far from the first time that Evel Knievel has been parodied in media or even in cartoons in general. So technically, you could say there is that argument with what Disney and Pixar is doing with Duke Caboom. It would be considered fair use because it does fall under parody clause. So there is that factor as well, that technically Disney could get away with it because they are allowed to do so. It is, like, technically you could argue Duke Caboom is a parody to Evel Knievel, thus Disney getting away scot-free with this whole lawsuit. You bring up a very strong point there, dude. Alright, let's see now. I honestly think the claims are kind of dumb. The only thing Knievel and Duke have in common is the costume. The Mama Coco likeness with this one elderly Mexican woman Pixar talked for Coco is more understandable, especially since she's more likely a poor woman and the movie was directed by a white guy and produced by a racist white woman with Darla Anderson. Yeah, you got a point with that. Boy, yeah, kind of awkward there. Anyways, that would be actually worth a lawsuit in likeness, but it would only hurt that old woman and her family more than Disney financially. Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth about that. I mean, you do bring up a good point. Like, this thing is, like, honestly, that is true, because, like, even if the case would actually be true, this is nothing compared to some of the others that would be more valid, like the whole Coco controversy. So you do bring up a very strong point there. Alright, anyways, we'll go and read, yeah, let's read, do we have some more, or, okay, yeah, I'll read 2 more before we jump into the next one. Alright, let's see now. Duke Caboom looks a little similar to Knievel, but the lawsuit is just dumb. Duke looks like any other daredevil, and you can't sue someone for the idea of one. It reminds me of the Fine Brothers React word controversy. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to bring up. That's exactly the point that I'm trying to make. It's just like how much of that iconography of the motorcyclist daredevil does Evel Knievel own? And it's very much like when the Fine Brothers tried to trademark the word react. Like, I could see where that controversy would go, and that could be the part where it could also really screw over Knievel in this kind of lawsuit. Anyways, let's go and read one more here. I won't comment too much, but I don't really see how this case is just coming up for Disney now. Why I say now is because they have used this kind of likeness before, like with Kick Butowski, and especially that one Cars tune where Mater becomes a daredevil. Maybe Kelly was unaware of them, but it's just a little strange. Exactly. This is like what I said before. Technically, this is far from the first time that we would see this kind of daredevil iconography be used before. It has been done plenty of times before, and even with Pixar. This ain't their first rodeo trying to make some kind of Evel Knievel parody. And on top of that, I just would probably debate that technically, that the one in the Cars tune is probably more similar to Evel Knievel than with Duke Caboom, mainly because of the factor that, yeah, you'll have the same, like, design, but, and also, like, the same white attire, that is used for Evel Knievel, but then you would also have, like, the America motif. I know I said before that technically just changing the country's motif wouldn't necessarily be enough, but in this case here, that would actually have a stronger connection with Evel Knievel, even if it's put on an actual car. So, honestly, with this, like, it could go either way, and I could see the argument on both sides, but personally, I would just not be surprised if Disney would end up becoming the winner. I think it's most likely Disney is going to end up scot-free with this one. Okay, now, the next story that I have here is a little bit of good news and a little bit of bad news at the same time. Now, as you guys probably know, in the last weekend, we had the Emmy Awards, and there have been some very significant winners, including Schitt Creek, in which that ended up becoming very popular to the point that it ended up sweeping a whole bunch of awards, so it's pretty much shocking how this little Canadian series ended up winning big at the Emmys, mainly because it got that little moment on Netflix. But there is one particular Emmy Award winner that a lot of people really got excited about and were really happy about, and that is The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, in which it actually won the Emmy for Outstanding Children's Program. So, what would be the bad news from there? Well, literally, the day after it got its Emmy, it got freaking canceled. Yes, it has officially been confirmed that Netflix has canceled The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. And just like I said, this actually happened not long after it won the Emmy Award for Best Children's Series. And we do have a couple of quotes going into this here. We got a couple of quotes, one of them coming from Lisa Hempson, the executive producer of The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, in which she states here, and this is a big one, by the way, so brace yourselves. We can confirm that there will not be an additional season of The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. We know fans are eager to learn how this chapter of the Dark Crystal saga concludes, and will look for ways to tell that story into the future. Our company has a legacy of creating rich and complex worlds that require technical innovation, artistic excellence, and masterful storytelling. Our history also includes productions that are enduring, often finding and growing their audience over time and proving again and again that fantasy and science fiction genres reflect eternal messages and truths that are always relevant. We are so grateful to Netflix for trusting us to realize this ambitious series. We are deeply profound of our work on Age of Resistance and the acclaims it has received from fans, critics, and our peers, most recently receiving an Emmy for Outstanding Children's Program. We also received a comment coming from Netflix in which they have stated, "We are grateful to the master artists at the Jim Henson Company for bringing the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance to life for fans around the world. We're thankful to the executive producers Lisa Henson and Haley Stanford and Louis Leterrier, who also directed all episodes, as well as the writers, cast, and crew for their outstanding work, and thrilled they were recognized with the Emmy this weekend." Now, with that said, though, some people might be wondering why, because that is one thing that most articles don't necessarily disclose. They don't necessarily mention why specifically The Dark Crystal ended up getting canceled on Netflix, especially with the wide acclaim that it received, plus the fact that it recently won an Emmy. How is it that such a great show, such a beloved series, ended up getting canceled? Well, I did do a little bit of digging, and apparently there is this article from IO9 in which this is actually the first article that unleashed the news that it was officially canceled, and there actually is one part here that might explain a little bit. Now, technically, I just want to say there is no confirmed reason as to why the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance got canceled, but apparently there is this one rumor that might describe a little bit as to why it did get canceled. And just reading from my source here, it states, "It is unclear why exactly the series wasn't renewed, but some have speculated on the delay and related issues. Reported behind-the-scenes drama indicate that the series was considered a miss for the streaming platform, with a source telling The Hollywood Reporter earlier this month that Age of Resistance failure was one of the reasons Netflix recently pushed out longtime executive Cindy Holland, who helped bring the series to life. The series was referred to as an expensive disappointment, per the unnamed unsource. We asked Henson and Netflix for comment on these claims, but they did not issue a report." So, technically, the rumors state that the reason why it did get canceled is because the show is just way too expensive, apparently. And because of that, it's so expensive to the point that Netflix didn't even get a chance to see any financial gain coming from Age of Resistance, which is why they were very much disappointed with the results that they got. And personally, I feel like if that were the case, I would actually believe these rumors, because when you do look at The Dark Crystal, it is not a cheap movie at all. This show, well, not a cheap movie, but it's not a cheap series. And when you do look at the show and everything they've done, you could definitely tell there was a lot of money that was put into it, and a lot of the money was put into it very well. Keep in mind, this is a puppet series where they would have to go and build some massive sets. They would include a lot of digital effects. They would have to build the puppets themselves. And not to mention, all the different elements, the different props, the different vehicles they have to do, the performers that they have to bring in, and not to mention, this is one of those rare moments that a Jim Henson production actually has a major all-star cast. They got some big celebrities involved with this. People including Taron Egerton, Anya Taylor-Joy, Mark Hamill, Keegan-Michael Key, Jason Isaacs, Simon Pegg, Andy Samberg, Alicia Vikander, and much, much more. They got some major people to do some voices, so this is a major, expensive production. So, personally, even though it's not confirmed, I would personally believe that this is definitely an expensive show. But with that said, as someone who has seen the series and personally adore this series, of course, this is a massive disappointment. Like, and especially this really does suck as well because, like, the series was only beginning, and plus the fact that it ended off on such an epic cliffhanger. Like, it was at the moment where things really started to get interesting, and now we were getting one step closer to some of the events from the movie itself. And it's at the point where it's like, man, like, you can't wait to see what else they would have in store. But now it's at the point where, nope, we can't have any. It ain't gonna be happening. And it sucks as well, because that's probably one of the worst things to happen for a show, when it started, like, when it would go and get really, really good, and suddenly they end up on a cliffhanger, and they don't have the opportunity to go and finish that off. And it truly is disappointing, honestly. And I know that there are a lot of people right now, they are asking for a season 2. Like, right now, I am seeing some change.org petitions. There are people out there who are heavily demanding that the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance would have to be, like, they want it to be renewed. They want to see a season 2. So that is not a surprise that people would go and react that way. Not to mention the fact that a lot of people are bringing up and are being very hopeful that they want to go and see this get renewed by a different channel. Because this is from Netflix after all, and this is not necessarily the first time that they would actually go and do that. Because the thing, like, people would go and think about Tuca and Birdie, because it did very well on Netflix. It actually got a bunch of awards, and then it ended up getting canceled after season 1, which then following afterwards, probably several months later, I believe, or several months or a year or something like that, but after it got canceled on Netflix, Adult Swim came in and decided to go and pick up Tuca and Birdie so that they would make more episodes in Adult Swim. So they would go and do that, and a lot of people right now are hoping that they would do the same thing with the Dark Crystal, that you would get another company, rather it be like maybe Warner Brothers with HBO Max, or maybe even Disney with Disney Plus, that they would go and pick up the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance and bring that to life again, so that there would be a season 2 and just continue the show from there. However, if I may be a realist for a second, if I may go and put up my opinion, honestly, I'm just gonna say that if the rumors are real that it got canceled because the show was way too expensive, then personally, I feel like there might not be a chance that we would ever see a season 2, or that there would be another company that would come in and would pick up the show and just continue to go with season 2 from there. Because, yeah, like, you know, critical and audience acclaim is one thing. But one thing that studios and companies are way too scared of, like one of their biggest phobias, is going way too over budget or spending way too much on one particular project. And in the case of the Dark Crystal, like, if it really is as expensive to the point where not even Netflix was able to go and find any form of profit from that series, then you know that there are going to be a lot of companies out there that would be way too scared to go and re-pick up the Dark Crystal in order to continue the series. Nothing against the show, and nothing against the Jim Henson Company. It's just literally the price that would come with it. That they would risk spending way too much just to continue a series that some fans are definitely going to go and watch it. Like, is the risk really that much? Is the fanfare really that big to the point that another series would be willing to spend all that money? And I feel like that's going to be the major risk factor that other companies would probably face when picking this up. Now, granted, I will say that Lisa Henson did promise that they want to go and continue the story from there. But at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it's something that would be a little bit more cost effective. That I like, honestly, probably what would most likely happen at this point is that they will continue the story of Age of Resistance, but only in like comic form. Like, they'll contact IDW and try to make a little comic miniseries that would conclude the story of the Dark Crystal, bridging the gap between what we have seen in Age of Resistance, following up to where we are now with the movie. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they would actually go and do that. But in this case here, I personally feel like this is not necessarily worth it. I'm not saying that it's not worth it. I don't think studios will find that it would be worth it to really spend all that much just to go and revive this show that didn't necessarily do well on Netflix, even with the massive fanfare that it has. And for me, I will say that, yes, I am absolutely heartbroken about this. I love the series. It's definitely one of my top favorite shows, or one of my top favorite projects that you can currently find on Netflix right now. But it's just, honestly, thinking realistically, I don't think a second season will happen anywhere else, or if there is going to be a company that would be willing to go and take the risk and actually spend that money. Or even if they would, like, I can imagine that even if they would actually go and, like, pick the show back up and put it on their platform, like, they would only give it one more season and that's it. They wouldn't fully continue forward unless the show got uber popular and really got a lot of financial gain from there, more so than what Netflix has seen in their platform. So honestly, overall, it is very disappointing. I wish we would see the conclusion of Age of Resistance, but for now, honestly, it just sucks. I guess we can only appreciate what we currently got with the 10 episodes that we have. So, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, how do you feel about Age of Resistance being canceled? If you've seen the series, how do you personally feel about it? Do you wish the show could be picked up? Do you think the show could actually get picked up? Let me know what you think. Okay. Let's see here. September. More like Cancel-tember. First Venture Brothers and now Dark Crystal. And I never watched the Age of Resistance, but what Netflix did was dumb. Why cancel it even though it won an Emmy when is with Netflix what is with Netflix canceling shows after season 1? Keep in mind that this is the company that allowed Cuties to be on services and canceled Tuca and Birdie. Oh god, are you one of those people that do believe in the conspiracy theories against Cuties, dude? Oh boy. Anyways, and canceling Kipo in season 3. And to quote Claptrap from Borderlands 2, cancelled? No! Okay, anyways, let's see. I'm honestly very disappointed that Age of Resistance got canceled since I saw the series and I thought it was great. For me personally, it does stink it ended on a cliffhanger. For me personally, I definitely think it would be cool for another company would pick it up, like how Lucifer got canceled by Fox after season 3 until Netflix picked it up and brought it back and is now responsible for future seasons. Yes, but again, is there going to be a company that would be willing to spend all that money in order to bring back the Dark Crystal? That's going to be the big challenge right there. I'm sure there would be a lot of companies that would be very interested in bringing back Dark Crystal because there is such a prominent and devoted fan base that absolutely adore the series. But it's just the price tag that they fear the most. Let's see now. Well, at least that is if the rumors are true about that. Just need to emphasize that. Anyways, let's see. Like others, I am very unclear onto why it got canceled, but I am on the side of what the article says. I think Netflix canceled it because it was intensely expensive, and for Netflix standards, I can understand why it wasn't cheap for them. Seriously, it looks pretty cool, and let's be pretty honest right now, most things that look pretty cool are majorly expensive. That is my prediction, and I also think that it will be picked up by a different network like Amazon or Hulu, or something, but maybe not. You know, honestly, thinking about it, maybe Amazon would be the one that would most likely do it. Like, just thinking, like, maybe I'm wrong, but if there would be a company out there that would legitimately go and pick this up, then honestly, I would either go with Amazon or Disney, because Disney currently has a very strong relationship with the Jim Henson Company, especially now that they got Muppets Now in production, and also they got Earth to Ned currently running. And if things go very well with those shows, maybe Disney would consider picking up the Dark Crystal. Who knows? So there could be that chance. Let's see now. What else do we have here? Here we okay. We'll go here. This is really a shock and a blow to all of us. I'm only on the 5th episode, and now I don't know there's a reason to continue, but hopefully something like CBS All Access, now Paramount Plus, can pick it up and do a one season run somewhere to Samurai Jack on Adult Swim, where the series finally ends and where the movie begins. Yeah, at least give us one. That's the thing. I think for fans, at least give us one more season. Just one more, just one more thing. At least give us a conclusion. Like, that's the thing. We don't need tons of more episodes. At least give us a conclusion where we can actually see the gap between Age of Resistance and the movie. Just had a little bit of a brain fart. Okay, one more comment before we jump onto the grand finale here. Let's see. It sucks the show got canceled. With the show being expensive at all, I can see why Netflix would cancel it. But it really does suck, especially since it ended off with a massive cliffhanger with everybody, including myself. We're looking forward to see what would happen next. Let's hope a different network picks up the show for a season 2, or I might go to hell for saying this, they could make it an animated series. Oh, damn. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad idea that you're bringing up, but ooh, man, you have opened a can of worms with that comment. Oh boy, because the thing is, one of the biggest appeals sorry about that. Let me rephrase that. One of the biggest appeals with the Dark Crystal is really the puppetry that is behind all this. If you go and replace that with animation, I don't know how people are gonna react to it. It's just like, I don't know, man. That's a real iffy thing, man. That's a real iffy territory where you're going with. Alright, folks, it is now time we are entering upon the grand finale. And oh man, do I have a fun-filled grand finale for you all. Because what I have here is going to be an icon whom, after many years of being well known to the public, will now go and actually enter upon the realm of entertainment. Not only into animation, but maybe live action as well. Because now this character actually wants to dive into animation. He wants to have his own TV show. He wants to have his own movie. He wants to make his brand more powerful than ever. And if you don't know who it is, in the words of Kevin Perjurer, it is a powerful rat named Charles Entertainment Cheese. Yes, folks, Chuck E. Cheese has officially announced that they have opened a brand new entertainment division in which they are hoping that they are going to take the characters from the Chuck E. Cheese brand and turn them into an animated TV show and a possible live-action movie. Yes, I say live-action movie because apparently that's what the title of this Business Insider article actually states. Now, this is a relatively short article. There's not really a whole lot that is being described, but that's basically the main gist of it, is the fact that Chuck E. Cheese is planning to go and open up a brand new entertainment division in which they are going to go and make scripted productions featuring the characters of Chuck E. Cheese and his little gang that he has. Now, the big reason as to why Chuck E. Cheese decided to go and enter into the realm of the entertainment business is mainly because of the fact that they're kind of rebranding Chuck E. Cheese. As you could probably imagine, 2020 has done some severe they've done some severe damage to dear old Charles over here. In fact, let me go and read a little bit from my source here on Business Insider, as it actually states. Chuck E. Cheese has been hit hard by the pandemic, leading to its parent company CEC Entertainment Inc. filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in June. To dig the chain out of the deep financial troubles, McKillips, which by the way, that is Chuck E. Cheese CEO David McKillips, laid out a plan that addressed some of the chain's most pressing problems, as well as a vision for a long-term brand transformation. So that's the big thing that Chuck E. Cheese is trying to do right now. They want to do a full-on reboot of the whole brand where they really want to expand their territories. They don't want to have just the restaurants and the arcades to be their main source of profit. They really want to go and really branch out to see what other forms of profit that they could legitimately find. And they decided they're going to try out into the entertainment business to see if maybe that could actually help out, not only give more attention to the Chuck E. Cheese brand, but to give that brand more profitability and to keep it afloat, to not rely on just the restaurants alone in order to go and keep Chuck E. Cheese alive, per se. Now, one thing that I do want to comment, like the first thing that I do want to say is that I am actually pretty surprised that it actually took Chuck E. Cheese this long in order to go and enter in the realm of animation. Because when you would think about it, back like in the 1980s and the 1990s, Chuck E. Cheese was actually a pretty big and pretty popular brand in America. I'm just going to say right now, I've never personally been into a Chuck E. Cheese because in Canada, or at least in my area of Montreal and in Quebec, we don't have a single Chuck E. Cheese. In fact, we don't have any of those arcade-style areas where you would win tickets and you could exchange them for prizes. We don't have any of those. Instead, we are aware though about Chuck E. Cheese, looking through like some of the American commercials and stuff like that, and we know that with Chuck E. Cheese, they are stupidly popular in America, especially during the times that I have mentioned in the 1980s and the 1990s, back in the days when those what do they call it, the dinertainment industry was like pretty much booming. And for a kid, they love to go to Chuck E. Cheese, especially when it's a place where they could have pizza, where they could watch a Country Bear Jamboree style animatronic show, and then they would go and play in the arcade where they would hope and win lots of tickets in order to go and get some major prizes. Like, they have a whole system, and Chuck E. Cheese is pretty much the most popular company that would go and do that. There were plenty of other companies that would try to do the same thing, but none have made it as big as Chuck E. Cheese. And from there, however, their popularity did start to dwindle a little bit when home consoles started to become a little bit more popular. And of course, like, people could just order pizza at home and stuff like that. And especially when it comes to Chuck E. Cheese, when it doesn't necessarily have the most well-known reputation. Like, of course, its popularity kind of like dwindled down from there, where its popularity kind of faded a bit into obscurity. And it wasn't until 2020 when Chuck E. Cheese started to get a bit more relevancy, when we did hear about a lot of the what was it? Like, when we hear a lot about the bankruptcies and that business is doing absolutely terrible for Chuck E. Cheese, because technically it does count as a restaurant, and restaurants really don't do well during the pandemic. But anyways, back to what I was talking about with the popularity of Chuck E. Cheese. I'm surprised that back in the 1980s or the 1990s that they didn't do anything in order to give Chuck E. Cheese like an animated series, or really expand upon the popularity of Chuck E. Cheese into something else like an animated TV show. Because with Chuck E. Cheese, that's one of those brands that really do rely on having popular characters that kids can actually connect with, especially with Chucky himself. I mean, even McDonald's actually went into a little bit into animation, where they actually did some direct-to-video cartoons as part of a little mini-series that they had that was actually done by Klapsi Suko, I believe. Like, the company that did Rugrats and the Wild Thornberrys, they actually did a whole bunch of different Ronald McDonald cartoons that do feature a lot of their characters, including Grimace, Birdie, the Hamburglar, and so much more. So honestly, I am kind of surprised that Chuck E. Cheese never had that opportunity where they made their own cartoons. Now, granted, there was one time where Chuck E. Cheese was actually pretty prominent in animation. In fact, one animated film, oddly enough, where Chuck E. Cheese was actually featured, and you actually do see Chucky's face. And that, you guys may remember probably Free Birds. Remember back in 2013, there was that movie that featured two turkeys where they try to go back in time in order to take turkeys off the Thanksgiving menu? Yeah, that movie. Now, one thing I do remember from it is that it actually had a massive plug for Chuck E. Cheese. I know it sounds weird, but the thing is that they actually did that in the movie in such a strange way. Because the thing is, with Chuck E. Cheese, never once did the turkeys actually go to like some kind of arcade. They never went into an actual Chuck E. Cheese restaurant, nor does Chucky himself ever made a cameo or anything like that. It's only the pizza. Whenever you would see pizza, it has to specifically be Chuck E. Cheese pizza. And apparently that's that's like a big theme in Free Birds, is that they live in a world where the only pizza that's in there is just Chuck E. Cheese pizza. Which is such a weird thing, honestly, because even though I've never been to a Chuck E. Cheese, I am very well aware that the pizza of Chuck E. Cheese does not have a good reputation whatsoever. So I don't know why the fridge would you go and order specifically Chuck E. Cheese pizza to your home. You know, this is actually one of those cases where some people could say, like, I like Chuck E. Cheese for the pizza. Yeah, and I like to watch porn for the acting. You liar, dude! But yeah, honestly, this is just to say that I am surprised that they didn't do this anytime sooner, especially back during the heyday of Chuck E. Cheese. Now, with that said, however, would I personally be interested in checking out a Chuck E. Cheese TV show or a Chuck E. Cheese live-action movie? Hell no! Because, like, okay, I know that we're way too early in this stage of the production of these kinds of projects, but so far, the only idea that we do have is just a Chuck E. Cheese animated show or a Chuck E. Cheese movie. Now, there is a very good chance that it could find a way to get the right team to go and work on it and actually make a surprisingly good series and actually have these characters be very well developed and actually make them memorable and inspiring characters in a way for like a new generation and stuff like that. But for now, the only piece of information we would have is that there might be a potential Chuck E. Cheese movie and a Chuck E. Cheese animated series. Like, that just sounds like a desperate plug, to be honest. And especially for the intentions, actually. Because we know that the whole reason why they want to go and do this is because the Chuck E. Cheese company is desperate. Right now, they're trying to find ways in order to expand their company in order to get profits somewhere else other than restaurants. And right now, I just want to say that Chuck E. Cheese is already Chuck E. Cheese is already going into some very weird directions with what they are trying to do. They're heading towards some very they're doing some very unusual things in order to go and connect with the new generation, just so they can expand upon the Chuck E. Cheese brand. Like, I kid you not. I am dead serious when I say this, but do you know what Chuck E. Cheese currently has right now? Do you know what Chucky is currently doing? Chucky actually has a Twitch channel. And you might, yeah, I know, it sounds weird. Like, what is Chuck E. Cheese doing on freaking Twitch? Believe it or not, just playing games. Just straightforward playing games. No, not necessarily doing any form of comments or anything like that. Chuck E. Cheese is currently on Twitch, just playing some video games, like, just playing like a round of like Fall Guys and stuff like that. I know some people are mentioning that some people are mentioning that there are some other companies as well that are doing that are doing the same thing with Twitch channels. Like apparently one person in the chat wall mentioned Wendy's apparently has a Twitch channel as well. But yeah, like for Chuck E. Cheese, they currently have a Twitch channel, and they're just playing whatever game is popular right now, whether it be like Fall Guys or Among Us. They're just, Chucky is just playing some games, just playing some video games on his PC before getting into the realm of animation. And I don't know, man, it just seems weird right now. It just seems weird right now. Like, you could tell that the intentions are definitely just to be desperate to go and find other ways to expand its profits, but I don't know how things are going to be. Like, I understand that it's just way too early in the game to make comments about it. And I mean, I kind of do understand why Chuck E. Cheese is trying to do it, because right now, like, they really are in massive financial troubles. They have already signed for bankruptcy. So they can't just rely on their restaurants and their pizzas in order to gain profits. They gotta go, and find some more stuff. And if it means to expand upon animation, because currently animation is a pretty good business to be in right now, because you could still work at home during the pandemic, then maybe so be it. Who knows? But overall, this is I feel like the Chuck E. Cheese brand is gonna go into some weird directions. And if this is not the first time that we're gonna hear Chuck on the mainstream, especially if he really wants to do if he wants to do a movie, I don't know how the fridge that's gonna go. But I think this is just a massive wait and see. But I'm not excited to see what the fridge they're gonna do. But I don't know. This is just getting crazy. I think that's the big thing. It's just I feel baffled that like 2020 has really broken down Chuck E. Cheese to the point that now it has broken Chucky mentally, and now he's just gonna go into some weird directions. He's playing games on Twitch, and now he's gonna enter into the realm of animation and make his own movie. Like, who the fridge is gonna... That's gonna be the big question. Who the fridge is gonna do the Chuck E. Cheese movie? Who will be the prominent director of this freaking Chuck E. Cheese movie? Now, realistically, all I could think about is probably the same people who would do like those live action animation hybrids. People like who's that? I forgot his name. But that director of like the Smurfs and the live action Scooby-Doo, like that, you got that guy, like maybe Raja Gosnell. Yeah, like you're gonna get someone like freaking Raja Gosnell to go and work on it. And I know that I know there is a lot of people out there who are currently making gags about like, oh, how about Scott Coffer? How about the guy who made Five Nights at Freddy's? Yeah, you could do your Five Nights at Freddy's jokes. But I'm just going to say this right now. Do not be surprised if that is the direction that they could legitimately go. You never know if Chuck E. Cheese might end up pulling off something like the Banana Splits movie and somehow come out with this R-rated gore-fest thriller with their characters. They could go in that direction. That is not out of the realm of possibility. Keep that in mind, guys. So, overall, this is just weird. Honestly, I just feel like this is such a weird thing that's gonna be going on. And yeah, what the Chucky's future, like, he'll probably be more notable in the future, but it's gonna be a weird future indeed. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, what do you think about Chuck E. Cheese having his own animated series and his own movie? Is this something you guys would be excited about? And if you guys go to Chuck E. Cheese, let me know what you think, if you really want to see Chucky more prominent outside of the realm of the dinertainment experience. Because I don't know, like, as someone who has never been to Chuck E. Cheese, I don't know if I'm necessarily that excited for this. Alright, let's see. I think that I will love this as a young child. I used to love to go to Chuck E. Cheese. It was one of my local places, and now that I'm hearing that they are branching out into the entertainment business, I am very excited. I was very bummed out at the news in 2020 bankruptcy, but maybe this could be very good for CEC Entertainment. Can't wait to see what they come up with the movie. But I also hope that they understand kids who used to go to Chuck E. Cheese are kids are a bit older now. Ooh, man, you might have tapped into something that I completely forgot. That is true that technically there are those people who have grown up with Chuck E. Cheese, and you never know if maybe they could actually tap into that nostalgia factor. Now, as someone unfamiliar with Chuck E. Cheese, I don't know how they would go and do that, but if they can find a way to resonate with people who did grow up with Chuck E. Cheese, then they might actually tap onto something good, and they might actually tap onto something profitable. Let's see, what else do we got here now? Since Chuck E. Cheese is not a country that exists in my country, I wonder if this movie will help gain recognition worldwide. But my biggest question is, are the characters going to be CGI or costumed? I don't know if I want to see this movie or just skip it, but it sure makes me hungry for pizza. Which topping should I pick? Yeah, I mean, again, we are way too early. Like, so far, like, we're just at the phase where the CEO we're only at the phase where the CEO said, I want a movie, and that's it. There's nothing that is officially done. I don't think they have hired a writer yet to go and work on a script for this. So, we don't know what's currently happening with this one. And I mean, like, maybe they'll go into some CGI characters. Maybe they'll have them be costumed. Again, who knows? We just need to wait and see on this. Let's see. I think it's a little too late for this, and not just because Chuck E. Cheese has declined in popularity, since most people would prefer to go to the far superior Dave & Buster's. I also wouldn't be surprised if this movie receives some backlash for ripping off Ratatouille. I also know that Chuck E. Cheese has been parodied in several animated TV shows, but overall, I think I'll pass on it. Oh yeah, oh my god, Chuck E. Cheese ripping off Ratatouille? Like, what is Chuck E. Cheese, like, is he gonna find, like, is he gonna find, like, the freaking Pasquale guy and just jump onto his head? It's like, hey man, here, let me pull your hair, I'll show you how to make some pretty awesome pizza. Oh my god. You know, honestly, the only, like, if there was one thing that would make me take back what I would say about, like, everything about my comments on, like, this whole Chuck E. Cheese thing, would honestly be if they would send me an audition to do the animated series, and I would somehow land the role of like, freaking Chuck E. Cheese or a character in this series. I don't know. Like, I am getting into voice acting, and I have been getting more auditions, so I was just like, I'm at the point where I am starting to think, it's like, what if I end up in this series? I don't know. Yeah, it sounds stupid, and I mean, it sounds crazy for me to go and say that, and maybe a little too hopeful, but I don't know. It's just something for me to just think about, honestly. Oh, I don't know about this. Okay. Let's see. I'm surprised that the company would want to make a live-action feature film based on Chuck E. Cheese. For me, I used to go to Chuck E. Cheese when I was a kid, and it was a great time over there. I do feel bad for the company this year because of the pandemic, with some of them closing. But luckily for me, in the place of my hometown I used to go to, it didn't shut down. Making a movie, though, I feel like this is too late. I like them all. I like them and all. But this is years too late. But I get why. I hope they survive. Okay, that's nice. Let's see now. I will say I want to remind everybody that people cannot deny that it might not go well, mainly because of the fact that I do need to remind everybody how much the FNAF franchise completely overshadowed Chuck E. Cheese. Also the fact that FNAF started a 6-year-long rivalry with Frozen's popularity. I wouldn't say, yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's had been a global phenomenon, but I would highly doubt that I would say it's, like, Frozen popular. Because, like, that's kind of a league of its own, to be very honest. I just need to make that comment. Let's see now. I don't live in America, so I don't have a real opinion on Chuck E. Cheese, though if they are doing a live-action movie, it will be the closest thing we have to a Five Nights at Freddy's movie besides the actual Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which we have no idea when it will be released. Yeah, so far that thing has always been in limbo, to be honest. Alright, I'll read one more comment, see what else we got here. What is it? Okay, yeah, I'll go with this one. Well, this was unexpected. I'm actually kind of surprised that we didn't get any Chuck E. Cheese, that Chuck E. Cheese didn't get an animated series anytime soon. Overall, why are we getting a live-action movie? What are they gonna do? Something like the Banana Splits movie, or make it more violent and just make it so bad it's good? Who the fridge knows at this point? But with that said, I think that shall do it for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And man, does it feel good to be back in the live format. And I want to say thank you all so much for watching this episode. And thank you all for listening to this episode and be a part of this as well. We'll see what will happen next week with more crazy stories coming up. And please, folks, don't forget, wear a mask, Black Lives Matter, practice social distancing, and hold anti-mask people accountable. So with that said, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.